What were you saying? And how about this, bro? Since you're there, you mind throwing on those headphones? That way you can kind of help me out over here. Give me a good sound check. Make sure we're sounding good. Don't worry about that, man. All right, man. Let's get right to it. It's your boy Jerk Jenkins right here on Florida Hip Hop Radio, man. 10 minutes past 7, about 72 degrees outside, and I have a very, 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 very special treat for the city today. I have none other than City of Gainesville Commission seat of District 1 candidate Mrs. Desmon Duncan-Walker. I always want to say Walker first.
It's okay. That's
So,
okay.
How are you doing?
I'm well, Jerk. How are you?
I am doing very well. I'll be doing a whole lot better after I get to know you a little better.
Well, let's make that happen.
Cool. So let's start from the beginning because, young lady, you have lived quite an accomplished life, man. You've done a lot. So I want to start from the beginning. I know you and your family have a long legacy here in Gainesville. Where to begin? You grew up here in Gainesville, right?
I did. I grew up here in Gainesville. I went to the public schools in Gainesville. I started out at Duval Elementary School. I went to Howard Bishop. After Howard Bishop, I did 1 year out at GHS, and then I wrapped it all up.
Your best year at GHS.
Oh, I knew you were going to do that, Jerk. Some might argue with that, but I won't be one of those people. But I finished out at Buchholz High School. Finished out at Buchholz in 19... Well, we'll leave that right there.
And you were a bit of I had no clue, you were a bit of a trailblazer over there. You were the first black female student body president. Am I making that up?
No, you're not making that up. You're not making that up. That was an exciting time.
No, that's very awesome too. I want to talk about that. Was that your first hint at public service? Or were you already running campaigns and things like that? I remember talking with Ms. Henson. She was running for student body president at the old Lincoln here. So it got to be in y'all. And so was that the first time you did something like that?
Well, you know what? You could kind of say that. Public service was something that I was acclimated to just by way of my family's business and just kind of the way that they raised me. But certainly when I got to Buchholz High School and I started to get involved with a lot of the different activities, I started seeing some needs of the students. And I said, well, you don't contribute to the problem, you become a part of solving it. So the opportunity arose to run for SGA president. And it was interesting, Jerk, because I was kind of considered still the new kid on the block.
Really? Oh, yeah. They're like, who's this new girl thinking she's going to come over here and win?
Right. And I think a couple of folks had gotten their feathers ruffled because the other thing was I had not been long-standingly involved in student government. So everybody was like, she's coming out of nowhere. What does she think she's doing? And that wasn't really the case. It's just that I saw the need, and I've always had a deep desire to listen to people and to respond to those needs and to work hand in hand. And so I ran a campaign that at that time was Des for Prez.
Nice. Awesome.
It was Des
has a ring to it, man. It was this class of 2005, right?
Well, we'll let that. We'll sit with that.
Anybody
who wants to do their research will find out it's otherwise.
Nice.
No, but you know what, Jerk? I don't mind telling people I'm the class of 1994.
Nice.
1994.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's what's
up.
up.
High school.
So you mentioned your family. I was gonna talk about that later, but let's start there. Your family, the Duncans. You guys have had one of the, I'd say one of the longest businesses around here, black-owned businesses here for decades, right? But you guys were a part, which I didn't know until very recently, a part of the original people here that came enslaved people in Gainesville, right?
So my family's roots can be traced back to those that were enslaved at Hill Plantation.
Right. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I want to talk to you about your family legacy, as well as your grandfather.
Okay.
I know this has nothing to do with what we're going to be talking about,
That's okay.
but I just kind of want to give the people kind of a background of you and how long you've been here, what all you've done. But I want you to talk a little bit about your grandfather. And his name was Collis, right?
Yes.
Talk about Mr. Collis and how what he did affects you now, and how we'll be going forward with your campaign.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for asking me that, Jerk. That's a really special question to ask me about my grandfather now, especially considering in a couple of days, on the 13th, he'll be 95 years old.
Wow.
So I'm just tickled pink and honored to be able to have had him around for that long.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
cool.
He's a pretty cool guy. But I would say my grandfather was raised out on 39th Avenue, Jerk. If anybody knows where Santa Fe Community College is, or Santa Fe College is, that stretch of land just before that, my family owned a few hundred acres out there.
Wow.
Okay.
Is that called Rutledge?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Shit, look at you. All right.
Hey, a little something.
Yeah, you know a lot of something. So, yeah,
Right.
the Rutledge community, also the Liberty Hill community.
Okay.
There's a small church out there by the name of Liberty Hill United Methodist Church, and that church was a church that my grandfather's father was very active in. He was a treasurer and held a few other offices in that church. But that small community was the community that nurtured my grandfather.
Right.
And so my people were farmers. That side of my family were farmers. And so at that time, obviously, that was not within the city limits. Okay?
Right.
It was pretty much 7 miles, I believe, outside of Gainesville. So my grandfather, along with his other 3 siblings, he was the knee baby of 4 children.
Tell them what a knee baby is, man, because everybody don't know what a knee baby
The
is.
knee baby is like the one right next to the last.
I gotta figure out what's his origin of knee baby, man, because I'm sure it's good. Whoever came up with that, whatever they did to come up with that.
For sure. But he's next to the last, the knee baby. But he, along with his parents and his siblings, would travel the 7 miles into Gainesville almost daily on horse and buggy to vend their vegetables.
Wow.
To vend their vegetables. And I can't remember exactly how much they were selling their wares for Jerk, but I do remember something about 10 cents for a bunch of greens.
Wow.
Can you imagine that?
Yeah.
You know? So to roll it forward a little bit, my grandfather, he grew up as a farmer on a farming huge patch of land, fresh air, unpolluted soil, unpolluted air. And I like to believe that that's one of the reasons why he's had the longevity that he's had.
Right.
He met my grandmother on the playground of that Liberty Hill school.
That is.
Okay, when he was, I believe, 15 and she was 8.
Okay.
Her mother was substituting at the school at that time, and she that's the reason she was there that day. And she went to her mother. She said, "You see that little boy over there?" My grandfather was always quiet, but my grandmother was not. So she told her mother, she said, "Do you see that little boy over there?" My great-grandmother said, "Yeah, I see him." My grandmother said, "I'm going to marry him."
Wow.
And 10 years later, she did. That was the first day that she ever laid eyes on my grandfather. They got married 10 years later, and to that union were born 3 girls. My mother is the middle of those girls.
Nice.
And to roll it back to what you asked me, Jerk, specifically about my grandfather. My grandfather, at a very early age, knew that he wanted to do something a little different from what some of the other individuals in the community were doing. You know, people were being teachers, and that was a wonderful and very respected profession. People were going into the ministry. That was another wonderful profession. He decided that he wanted to care for families in their hour of need, and so he went into the funeral business when he had that opportunity. He and his brother started Duncan Brothers Funeral Home. How that has impacted me, Jerk, is as follows. I've had the opportunity to watch my grandfather, a quiet, mild-mannered man who's compassionate, who really does have the heart of a servant, teach me how to be that way.
Amen.
I like to think that I picked up a few things from
him. Yeah, absolutely. You can't help but.
I hope I have, Jerk, because when I watch how he renders his services and just how he deals with people in general, I am honored to say that I even know him. I'm certainly honored to say that I came from him. But I believe that he truly has been a major influence in my desire really to just be compassionate to human beings and give back to community.
Yeah, I think it's a major level of compassion that comes with just being in that industry. So I just want to say thank you on behalf of the community for the years of service that you guys have helped so many people through bereavement.
Thank you.
Let's talk a little bit. Let's take it back down to the timeline. So you graduate Buchholz.
Yes.
You go to Bethune, which you could have went to Tallahassee.
Oh, don't do it. Don't. So my mother went to Florida A&M.
Okay.
So you can imagine the rivalry in the house. I thought at one point I might want to go to FAM, could have gone to FAM, but chose to go to Bethune.
And Mary McLeod Bethune is one of my inspirations. So shout out to Bethune. I'm just joking.
And can I just do this really quickly?
Yes, ma'am.
When Mary McLeod Bethune would travel through Gainesville, she would live at the home of my great-great.
Get out of here, man! You're gonna make me cry here, man.
So I felt this
get out of
connection. Here. Yeah, that's because we couldn't stay other places.
Right. Just like she put up Jackie Robinson on campus there because he couldn't when he was integrating baseball, he couldn't stay in Daytona or whatever.
There you go.
So it's amazing how I always think about that, like. Who did she know in Gainesville?
She knew some, absolutely. Yeah. When I flip through one of the photo albums in my grandfather's home right now, I can flip to a page where my grandmother is a little baby.
Wow.
And her mother is on the drill team at Bethune-Cookman. And right next to it is, in my grandmother's handwriting, that was the year that she was the mascot for Bethune-Cookman College. And that was also the year that Mary McLeod Bethune brought my great-grandparents there for dinner. So yeah, it's really kind of awesome.
Yeah,
it's kind of awesome to have.
It's so much hidden history. You know what I mean? We're definitely gonna get into that, because I know that's another passion of yours. Yes. So you go to Bethune, and what I wanted to get into was when did you catch the acting bug?
When I was about 7 years old.
Oh, okay, cool.
So that pretty much predated everything.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, that predated everything. Right here, Jerk, my mother and my grandmother and my father made sure that I was going to the City of Gainesville's cultural arts programs.
Right.
Okay, that's where I cut my teeth. And there's a gentleman by the name of Tim McShane. I think they call him Shamrock now.
Okay.
Who was really, really influential and instrumental in really developing me as an actor. And I say that even as a young child at the age of 7, Tim took me under his wing, and he saw a passion that I had. Because, I didn't grow up with siblings. I have an older sister.
Yes, ma'am.
But she and I didn't grow up in the same household.
Correct.
So growing up alone, when you're an only child or essentially raised as one, you make your own fun.
I've heard this before.
yeah, it's the truth. It's the truth. So I would have my little tea parties and things with the dolls and the teddy bears. For sure, and I would create storylines for everyone. Everybody had an elaborate storyline. And so that was just, I think, natural that it would manifest into something else, and acting became something that was very, very important to me, and it started at the age of 7.
When you think of government, you think of, bureaucracy and a lot of hard-nosed, just business people. But you work in a sector of government, I guess the passion of you is cultural...
Yes, cultural affairs.
Cultural affairs.
And arts and culture.
Right.
Yes.
So talk about that. Talk about what that kind of background brings to politics here. Because, like I said, a lot of people think of politics as this very serious thing, and you guys seem like you guys are having a lot of fun over there.
Well, I'd like to start off by saying I'm not a politician.
Nice.
I'm not a politician. I am a community advocate, and that's what I hope to remain.
Explain the difference.
Yeah, so I believe that a politician does things from here.
Yes, ma'am.
When a community advocate does things from here.
Wow.
And I think that has to be the way that you operate. One of the things that has kind of saddened me over the years is just this idea that we've gotten away from being civil servants. We are easily influenced by outside sources.
Right.
We sometimes get seduced and reduced by powerful entities that seek to have their own way with our communities, as opposed to us really representing the interests of our constituents and the community. So you've got to be a civil servant first. If you're not that, you aren't doing what you need to be doing in the job.
All right, we the people.
Absolutely.
I love that. Okay, so you doing all these wonderful things in acting. You end up moving to Miami. I know that you directed a nice production, On the Porch, that starred none other than Danny Glover.
Danny Glover, that was an awesome experience.
And then you moved back to Gainesville in 2014.
Yeah. So there were several years in between.
Straighten that out for me. I know I'm all over the place.
No, it's fine. You've done your research, Jerk. I love
not
that.
as good as I probably should have,
Yeah,
right?
you did though. So Jerk, when I left Gainesville, I went to Bethune-Cookman. After Bethune-Cookman, I went down to Miami on vacation. And stayed.
Is that how that?
Pretty much.
Okay.
It'll get you like that.
As I was saying, I'll reserve my judgments. Trust me. You got it.
Yeah. So,
yes, ma'am.
Actually, my best friend from college lived in Fort Lauderdale.
Nice.
And
Broward
so
is very nice.
Broward is very nice. And now Dade is very nice too.
Yes, it is.
Okay, let me tell you,
yes,
Dade is very nice. It's interesting, how close they are, but yet how different they are at the same time.
And my family's from Pompano.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
We'll have to talk a little bit after the
we
show.
may have to the muck.
For sure. Mm-hmm. But so my best friend was from Fort Lauderdale. I graduated. She said, come on down here and let's just have a vacation. I said, great. I go down on vacation. My mother calls us. She says, what are you girls doing? I said, I'm looking in the paper. She said, you're reading the paper on vacation? What are you looking for? I said, yeah, I'm looking for a job and a place to stay. And my mother said, well, Desmond, would you come back home for just a little bit and I'll see what I can do.
Right.
And sure enough, my mom actually made a phone call to a friend of ours down in Miami. And I had a job pretty much within a week. I had a place to stay within a week. And I was gone. I started working at the Thurston Consulting Group doing research and evaluation.
Nice.
And it was an awesome experience. But I'm fast forwarding to the theater piece. So the woman who hired me was a dear friend of the family. And even though research and evaluation was something that I grew to love and that I actually did pretty well, she knew that I did not come there to stay. She knew that my background was in theater and performance and that at the time was my passion. And so she said to me right then, she said, listen, I know you didn't come here to stay. I don't even want you to. I want to help you get to wherever it is you want to be in your art. So what happened was Liberty City has an amazing facility known as the African Heritage Cultural Arts Center.
Okay.
It's in the heart of Liberty City on 62nd and 22nd.
Because it's like a museum?
Well, it's a cultural arts center. So actually, it's a teaching program that they run out of there for youth. Okay. They do offer some adult classes, but they have a theater, they have a band room, a photography studio. So it's a cultural arts complex.
Gotcha.
So there was this opportunity. They were doing a show. It was an original play by a man by the name of Arnold Mercado. I went down, a friend of mine said, you should go audition for this show. I said, okay. I go down, I audition for the show, I get the part.
Nice.
It's sold out every night of the show, and after it's all over, the director of the African Heritage Cultural Arts Center, Mr. Marshall Davis, came up to me and he said, Ms. Walker, I really enjoyed your performances. I'm sorry to see you leave. I said, well, I don't have to. If you got a job.
Say that.
He said, funny, you should mention that. They actually had an opening in theater.
That's all right.
I interviewed for the job. I got the position. So that's how I started my arts administration career in Miami. So I moved from teaching theater and managing a black box theater space there to being a liaison, a media liaison for the entire division. And then I actually had the chance to move on up to be the director of the Women's History Gallery in Miami. So that was really, really an awesome experience.
Cool. What don't you do?
Several things. Yeah. But, God was really just moving and blessing and doing some amazing things.
That's all right. So what brought you back to Gainesville?
There's no place like home.
Say that. Okay.
There's no place like home.
Ooh, that's a famous play, right?
Yeah, that's the Wizard of Oz. Like Dorothy. I clicked my ruby slippers 3 times.
Yeah, nice.
Came on back home. But truthfully, Jerk, when I left here, I was not sure that I was going to come back permanently. I was not. But, from a very early age, my family had always instilled in me to never forget the bridge that brought you over.
Nice.
That's something that they've always taught me. And Gainesville has always held a very special place in my heart. So when I would be away, I guess everyone gets the occasional bout of homesickness. And so I would come home occasionally. But what brought me back home, Jerk, was the understanding that it's important to leave.
I was going to ask you that.
Yeah, I feel like it is important to leave. If you have the opportunity, you can. Leave, go somewhere else, experience something else, learn something else, and then bring that back home.
It's brilliant.
Yeah.
That's brilliant. That's what we all did. Yeah. That's what the greats did. Let's talk about you come back to Gainesville 2014. You, I presume, come back to District 1.
And come back to District 1. Yeah.
And
where it all began.
Where it all began. I'm sure that I guess let me ask you this first. Any differences that you noticed when you came back?
So while some things were different, too much was the same.
I know exactly what you mean by that.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess what I'm trying to get to is 2014 was that 7 years ago. 2018 we had an election where historical election, I'd say. We put two black females on the city commission. Mrs. Gail Simmons, as
Gail
well
Johnson.
as Gail. Oh, look at me over here.
That's all right.
Gail Johnson, and then who I think was at large,
Exactly.
and then District 1, Mrs. Simmons,
Yes.
the incumbent of District 1 right now.
Yes.
And Malcolm X said that we our black women are the most disrespected, and so we put two black women on the city commission in 2018. So we got representation there. Why do we need Miss Desmond here? What's the difference? What's the distinguishing factors
I'm
here?
glad you asked that.
Yes, ma'am.
Because I think we need to be careful with the idea and the word representation.
Say that.
Too many people think that it's enough for you just to look a certain way.
W.D. Du Bois, he talks about this. I'm sorry.
No,
Go ahead.
you own it.
He
You own
talks
it.
about
You
this.
own it.
He
Yeah.
does. But
Yeah, we need diversification of thought, ways of thinking and ways of being,
Yes,
ways
ma'am.
of serving, ways of doing. And that's what I believe right now we're missing.
yes, ma'am. So let's talk specific issues. District 1. First of all, geographically, what's district? What constitutes District 1 here in town?
District 1 is so interesting. It's a big district.
I bet.
Pretty much every African American, predominantly African American neighborhood and historically black neighborhood
Right.
pretty much falls into District 1.
Got it.
So,
Got it.
Duval and Lincoln Estates,
Yeah.
Sugar Hill,
Any specific issues there that you might want to tackle? That things that we're facing in District 1 that we definitely need to catch up on?
Oh, for sure. I mean, listen, Jerk, how long have we been talking about the need for economic development in District 1? Long
Yes.
long time. And so when you asked me about, the changes in District 1 when I came back home,
Right.
that was one of the things that had remained the same.
Right,
that I
because
knew needed to be changed.
Right, because if we're talking about Gainesville entirely, it's not exactly like that. It looks a lot different everywhere else.
Hello. And therein lies the problem. I'm a big proponent of what is known as equitable development.
Yes, ma'am.
And that's all about improving quality of life outcomes for all of Gainesville citizens. So that means you don't focus on putting your amenities all in Northwest or Southwest Gainesville.
Right.
We need to make sure that we're spreading out the appropriation of our resources all throughout Gainesville.
Yes, ma'am.
So we see where District 1 has some major deficits. We see that those deficits are long-standing. We've been talking about the idea of this food desert for decades.
Yes, we have.
And Jerk, here's the thing though, here's my issue. It's not that we didn't have plans before. There are several plans that are on the books,
Yes,
Jerk,
ma'am.
that previous commissioners have done the heavy lifting and have put in place. It's about implementation. And so the question is, why have we not implemented the plans?
Yes, that is one of the major. That's one of the, seems like the $1 million question there.
Right.
I want to talk a little bit about what compelled you to run. What was it? Was there a specific triggering factor?
That was a large part of it. And then, Jerk, there were several things. Because to be honest with you, I didn't come back home saying, yes, one of these days I'm going to run for office.
Right.
That was never my pursuit.
Yes, ma'am.
That wasn't it. But in seeing things that were happening and that were not happening, I believe that you have to be the change that you want to see.
Love that.
That's Mahatma Gandhi.
Yes,
he taught us that. And I believe that's a very real thing because we can't be sideline coaches, right?
Public service. That's what it is. Right?
That's what it is.
I love that.
Back about 2 years ago, there was a situation with Seminary Lane, and I'm sure you kind of followed that.
I remember
a little bit. And they were at a point in a process that had been occurring well over a decade, where a developer had come in and said he wanted to develop this parcel of land over in the historic Fifth Avenue neighborhood for student housing. And to kind of make this major situation and long-standing situation brief, that was a problem for a lot of reasons.
Right.
And one of the main reasons was it was going to solidify the displacement of families that needed not just affordable housing, because we need to really deal with the misnomer that is, but it was going to displace residents who needed low to moderate income housing.
Right.
And that is a stock of housing that we're not seeing replenished enough. So when this was brought to my attention, I knew it was a problem. I had been asked by a representative of the developer, bless his heart, to convene some community stakeholders for a meeting so that they could tell us what their plans were. And when they did that, they had a wonderful buttoned up presentation. It was so professional and lovely. But when I looked around the room, Jerk, and I saw the long-standing and indigenous residents of that historic black neighborhood that dates back to Reconstruction.
Wow.
When I saw the look of hopelessness, when I saw and felt the sentiment of here we go again, when I heard the developer say pretty much that you can't do anything about this, we're just here to let you know what we're going to do.
Right.
I knew something had to be done. We needed to change the way that the city did business with its residents. So we formed an organization known as the Gainesville Alliance for Equitable Development.
Yeah, which brings me to my next question. Let's describe the purpose, the function, the mission, the behind GAED.
Yes, it's a big old long name.
Yes, ma'am.
But it's to service a true need here in Gainesville. So we actually organized around the issue of Seminary Lane, but it's so much bigger than that.
Yes, ma'am.
You know, it encompasses the issues of affordable housing.
There's a lot of work to be done.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
But you know what the beautiful thing is, Jerk? The amount of support that organization gained right off of the bat, the people that came to the table, the residents that came to the table who wanted to mobilize and work to save their communities was amazing.
Wow.
I tell people all the time, communities are not buildings. Communities are people.
Absolutely.
And once we start thinking like that, we can actually start to affect the change.
Yes, ma'am.
It's not about, you know, we hear all the time, you know, historic preservation, and folks are worried about what kind of windows are going in a building. And while I believe in preserving these homes, I really believe in preserving the people.
Absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely.
So that's at the core of what the Gainesville Alliance for Equitable Development does. It is about real, true, affordable housing.
How can we access? Y'all got a Facebook page?
We do
or
have
something?
a Facebook page.
Yeah.
We do have a Facebook page, and I would invite anyone to go on that. They can see some of the work that we have done. We are in the midst of reorganizing and recalibrating after COVID. And just, it was time for us really to solidify some things, and I'm very excited about the direction that we're heading in the next few months.
Yes, ma'am.
We really plan on doing some great work. We have written policy for the city to consider with regards to a moratorium on development in historic black neighborhoods here.
Yes,
So,
which is what very much needed here.
listen, that's what we're talking about, because that's how the change happens. You know, it starts with the people. It starts with us, yes, making noise, but then it starts also, you have to have the policy piece. You have to have that. So the Gainesville Alliance for Equitable Development has been actively creating policy suggestions for how we want to see our communities evolve.
Yes, ma'am. Well, thanks again for even starting something like that, man, because we definitely, like I said, that's something that we definitely need here.
Thank you.
Let's talk about, what was that, Saturday the 7th? You guys did a car caravan? Let's talk about it, man. Take away.
So much fun.
Yeah.
Oh, Jerk, you're going to have to come out. Listen,
I wish I would have been to that one, man. I seen y'all on the
come
internet.
this Sunday. What are you doing this Sunday? You can talk to me
I'm
after
not
the show.
doing anything on Sunday. I do something from 12 to 2, but it's canceled, so I'm not doing anything on Sunday.
Okay, jerk. So we're going to talk after the show about getting you in this Sunday's car caravan. We're doing this again. So the idea was that we wanted to touch every community in District 1.
Yes,
I'm
ma'am.
big on reaching out to the people.
Yes,
you know,
ma'am.
if you fail to do that, you fail the mission altogether. How can you know what the community needs unless you are putting yourself in the midst of
Come
your
on, man.
constituents? How can you know?
Say that.
And then the question has to be asked, if you're not listening to the people, who are you listening
Yeah, say that.
Who are you listening to? And so
Sheesh.
it was very important for us to get out among the people. And so I had this idea dropped into my spirit. You know what? We need to get a car caravan and just drive through the neighborhoods and listen. I have an amazing team, and I want to just take a minute right now to just say thank you to all of the volunteers on this campaign who have just worked tirelessly and who've just been amazing. We got a purple vert jerk.
Oh, man.
We had the party bus. We had a caravan with the magnets on the side.
It sounds like I really did miss out.
But listen, there's another opportunity. But we had a blast.
Yeah, I got to get in on that, man.
Get in on it. Come and join us this Sunday. But we rode through the neighborhoods, and there were a couple that, because it literally took us about 2 hours, there still were probably 2 that we didn't get to, and I want to make sure that we touch those. I want to make sure that we touch those.
So
I don't
cool.
want
To be
any stone
continued.
unturned. To be continued. And then the goal is to end in a rally.
Okay.
So we want to get people informed. Anybody who still does not know who I am, I want to invite them out to come meet me, touch me in person, see what I stand for, see how I plan to work with the citizens to help address our needs.
That lasting impression is so much. It's so important going into that voting booth, man.
Well, it is. And then also, Jerk, if I can say this, to also inspire and encourage people to get to the ballot box. Because unfortunately, historically, we have a very low turnout.
Right.
And we need to shift that. I've had the opportunity to talk to a few of our sisters and brothers about why it is that they don't believe in voting. And to be honest with you, Jerk, it's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
But I understand.
Right. There's
I
definitely a
don't
reason
agree.
for it.
Absolutely, there's a reason.
Understood.
And I try to inspire those sisters and brothers, and I know at least 2 times last week I was able to encourage some folks to actually go do it.
Bless your heart, man.
People, our ancestors and our forefathers' blood is soaked into this soil. Skulls were bashed in.
Yes, definitely.
Lives were lost, black and white.
Absolutely.
For that right. And that's something that we should never forget, lest we forget. And so we owe it to them.
Absolutely.
And to ourselves to exercise the right. I think a large part of the problem is a lot of people, because of what I shared with you earlier, when you have big entities telling you we're going to do what we want anyway, there's a feeling that they're going to do what they want anyway. My vote doesn't matter. But it absolutely does. You don't want to give the establishment the excuse. Go out and vote so that they cannot hold that against you.
Speaking of that, I'm good. Election day is on the 16th.
Yes.
You can vote by mail right now.
Yes.
And you can vote early from now until the 13th.
Yes, until the 13th. You're right.
Cool. Shout out to Miss Kim Barton for all that she does.
Hey, Kim.
Because we definitely got one of the best in the state
She's
of Florida.
Outstanding. She's
Absolutely. Funny story. I'm picking up lunch today at Underground Kitchen. My friend, Mr. Carl Watts over there, and this lady is talking to me. Her car is painted with the Desmon Walker sign. She's talking to me about Desmon Duncan-Walker.
Yes.
She doesn't know I'm going to be talking to her tonight.
Oh, how awesome.
When she finishes, she tells me how great a person you are and all these things. And when she finished, I tell her I'm actually speaking with this lady tonight.
Look at that.
So I definitely I told her I had to shout out. Her name was Lena.
Lena.
So you might know who she is. Yeah.
I do.
Yes. So shout out to Miss Lena.
I love Miss Lena Gillis.
I'm certain. I didn't get her last name, but I'm sure that's who you think it is. So shout out to her. But I just thought that was very funny. All right, so back to the car caravan. What we learned from that? Any takeaways?
Well, yeah. So the takeaway is that the people want to be connected with.
Say that.
That's it.
Say
You know.
that.
So that was the goal. And one thing that really warmed my heart and almost had me at tears at a certain point, Jerk, was to see the kids running up, you know. So yeah, the cars were shiny. You know, you got this big old purple vert with the spinners on it.
Nice. Yeah, you know, like that.
You know, leading the caravan, and so that's the first thing that attracts you. But when you get to the car, hear the people passing out literature and telling you, you know, how important it is to vote and asking you if you know the importance of it, and the kids are responding.
And they love and they won't forget that.
No,
you know, they'll always remember that.
They won't. And you know, the goal is to start instilling that in them right now.
Amen. That's
So
all right.
some of their parents were also outside as well, and they were coming over to the car getting literature. But for every child that came outside, that put their basketball down on the basketball court, because we rode through Eden Park and the kids were out on the basketball court.
I actually did see y'all in
Did you
Park
see it?
on the live.
Yeah. And the kids came over from the basketball court and the playground. For every one of those children that came over, the goal is that they will understand the importance of voting, but also that they will take that literature back inside to their parents.
Nice.
You know,
That would be the goal.
Connecting with the people was truly the highlight.
That's
and
all
the
right,
goal.
man. I've talked to you about everything except the actual issues. Let's get to the issues and your positions on everything.
Yeah.
My personal question is, when elected, first order of business. What we doing on the first day?
So on the first day.
Yes,
here's
ma'am.
The first thing.
That's it.
Once again, you've heard this. This is my theme, right? Connecting with the people. I think that we do ourselves as leaders and our communities a disservice when we don't open up a platform to communicate.
Transparency, man.
Hello, transparency and
talking about.
accountability.
Yeah.
You know, and so you open that up. So the first order of business is to establish how you can communicate with Desmond. I have always believed in an open door policy. A lot of people are afraid of that, and I understand that can be overwhelming. But guess what? That's your job.
Yeah, it is.
And you don't. This ain't what you want.
Right.
If that's not what you're willing to do. You see what I'm saying? So it's hard, trust me. I've had to do it in other arenas, and I can only imagine that it will be even more challenging with the number of people and the number of issues that you have to deal with. But you have to open up that line of communication, because one of the resounding things that I've been hearing from community members is they feel shut out. They don't know what's going on. No one is talking to them. No one is listening to them. No one is responding. And those are things that we can't have.
That's a breeding ground for just hopelessness and disenfranchisement. Let's go into. I was reading your website. Your first. Let's talk about your first issue on your site. Aging citizens. Talk about just general info on that.
Yeah, general info on that. Once again, I live with my granddaddy.
That's what's up.
I live with him, and I
95
love that.
years old, man.
It's amazing. And
I gotta interview this guy. I didn't know he was still. I didn't know he was still alive.
Listen,
that's amazing.
a lot of people aren't at 95.
The wealth of knowledge, the wealth of knowledge you got there, man.
Listen, I count it all joy and a blessing to be around him every day. So what that has allowed me is some firsthand experience with that aging demographic and that aging population. And my grandfather, for a large majority of his life, has been a relatively independent man. And so, as we all can imagine, as the body ages, things change.
Yes, ma'am.
And sometimes what your mind thinks it can do is a little different from what your body will allow you to do.
Yes.
And what I've seen is, even though my grandfather's still in relatively good health, I have seen the need for our elders, our seniors, to be supported, when they're trying to maintain a level of independence. And so a lot of them who are in a different situation than my grandfather need access to housing.
Yes,
they need access to health care. They need assistance. My grandfather is fortunate that he has my mom and I to take care of him, but that's not everybody's testimony.
And I think Florida is the home of one of the largest elderly populations in the country, right?
Yes.
If not the largest.
Thank you. And we need to be mindful about caring for our elders right now.
Yes, ma'am.
Ideally, I'll be one of them one day.
Yes, ma'am.
And I certainly hope.
Yeah, I was going to say same here. Hopefully.
I certainly hope that there are systems in place, Jerk, because that's what we need. We need systems in place.
Ma'am.
We need sustainable ways to carry out our goals, and sustainable ways in this instance of how we're going to care for our aging and elderly population.
Yes, ma'am.
As well as their caregivers. That's another topic. But
well, yeah, because I mean that would be the infrastructure to hold them up.
That's it.
Let's talk a little bit about COVID relief. Hit us last year out of nowhere. I'm sure as public servants, shout out to all the people that are in those positions now with this unforeseen thing and the things that they had to face. Bless your heart for jumping in the middle of that.
Mm-hmm.
But let's talk a little bit about COVID relief. You got any plans in that area?
Yeah. So once again, firsthand experience. In March of last year, my father contracted COVID.
Wow.
Yeah. And he had what would have been considered the worst case.
Mm.
So he simultaneously had COVID, the flu, and pneumonia.
Wow.
Right. So when he went in, he was in the hospital for 2 days, Jerk, before they intubated him.
Mm.
And my father stayed in ICU for 60 days. 60. Not 16, 60.
Yes, ma'am.
During that time, as you can imagine, it was really an unprecedented time because people were trying to figure out what COVID was, how to address it. You know, doctors didn't really know what to do. Still no cure, only a vaccine.
Yes, ma'am.
But my father struggled. He struggled while he was hospitalized. His situation was exacerbated by the fact that, bless his heart, he went into the hospital 2 days before he was supposed to have cataract surgery. So he's hospitalized and he cannot see.
Yeah.
So occasionally they had to put my father in a medically induced coma. So I don't know if you can imagine being put in a coma and waking up the next day, not knowing where you are, don't have your eyesight, but you in your blurred vision, you see people in hazmat suits who are trying to explain to you why you're here.
Sound like a Flintstone episode.
Thank you. Or a Twilight Zone. Right. And so that was the first piece of it. So here's what my father is going through in the physical piece. At home, my mother and I were calling the hospital at least 6 to 8 times a day.
Yes, ma'am.
For status reports. And I want to big up the nurses and the doctors at North Florida Regional Medical Center.
That's all right.
Because they kept my father in the earth. Our experience with them was absolutely amazing. They were angels. I told them then, but I cannot tell them enough. I want to just big up them now. It's a hard job. So I say all this to say that back home, my mother and I were under duress and stress, not knowing what's going on. Is he going to live? Is he going to die? When he got out 60 days later, he had to learn how to do everything again. So, you know, when you're hospitalized for 60 days, your muscles atrophy. He was intubated, had to do everything for my father when he came home.
Yes.
There were psychological effects of COVID.
Out of bed.
So now you shell-shocked.
Yeah.
You don't want to be around people. You don't want to, you know, the least little cough or scratch in your throat, you're thinking, am I getting it again? So what I came to realize, Jerk, was that COVID relief was something that I wanted to focus on. And it would extend beyond testing and vaccination. Because I saw firsthand what the fallout of COVID actually is.
Yes, ma'am.
And it impacts us in ways that exceed the physical.
Yeah, and it comes at the entire family.
At the whole family. And so your finances are impacted. Your physical body is impacted. Your mind is impacted. And so we can't just deal with your body. We got to deal with all of that.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. We said how Florida's home population, you got the population of the elderly population that's pretty big here. With COVID, I mean, it's definitely a fact that, you know, there's disparities from races and, you know, the black community, we got it a little harder, and mostly from pre-existing things. And that's a fact. It's definitely something we have to deal with. But the elderly population is the one that's actually, that are losing their life.
Yeah.
So I think I read the other day, 80% of the people that are actually dying from COVID are 55 and older. My mother, she got over cancer last year at North Florida.
Oh, that's right.
And they were really good with her, you know, and she loved it. But we can't do anything. You know, we got to do everything through Zoom because she's high risk. but it's definitely worth it. But again, it's something that affects everybody.
There's nothing like that feeling of helplessness.
Right.
You know, when you have a loved one who is ill that you can't get to. And see, just for me, I'm the one who would be at the bedside, sleeping at the hospital, telling them what your medications are, asking them what you're doing. Right. That was me. So it was really hard for me not to be at my father's bedside. And I can tell you once again firsthand how that wreaks havoc on your mind, your body, your soul. It's the patient, it's their family, you know, it's the finances, it's so many different moving pieces as to how we need relief from this pandemic.
Well, I'm thinking right now, like that's an amazing approach to have going into office. The experience definitely is something very unfortunate, but I'd much rather have a person that is cognizant of that and conscious of how serious this is. So I just want to support you as much as possible in that, you know, in the COVID situation. Let's talk a little bit about historical cultural preservation.
Yeah.
I know that's a passion of yours.
Yeah.
Talk about what you're going to be playing when you get in office with that.
Yeah. So, Jerk, I think the first time I actually met you was at the Aquin Jones Museum and Cultural Center.
It was.
You brought your kids over.
I did.
And we did a tour with your children, and that was a heart song and still is a heart song of mine. The reason that it's on my platform is because of this.
Yes, ma'am.
Our culture and our story is a commodity. Okay.
Sheesh.
Okay. And it deserves to be protected.
Yes, it does.
In ways that exceed the traditional historic preservation.
Right.
If you're not aware, or if you think it's okay just to give the University of Florida everything, then this won't be important to you. But what I saw and what I know about our story and our history is that our ancestors or our people, our family, right now, when they're talking to researchers, first of all, will come to us all the time because we have something to say. We have treasures. Just a few seconds ago, you said, "Oh, I'd love to talk to your grandfather." People who want to write books, produce plays, etc., they realize what the black community has. Unfortunately, the black community doesn't realize what the black community has. Right. And that's of no fault of our own.
Understood.
It really isn't. The University of Florida is an amazing resource. It really is. But the black community is the source. And I want us to understand that.
Yeah.
And so that needs to dictate our relationship with researchers and the University of Florida. Okay, so now how does that feed into what I'm saying? I believe that we have a responsibility, like particularly with institutions like the Aquin Jones Museum that is a part of the city. We must have a vested interest in protecting its intellectual property. We must have a vested interest in protecting our cultural assets. I'm not just worried about the wood and the nails that hold it together. I'm worried about the story that's within it.
Tell me, how does the average person do that?
Protect?
Yes.
Okay, I'll use this example. So a few years ago, there was a project known as the Heritage Trail.
Okay.
Remember the Heritage Trail?
I am, yeah.
Okay. So great idea, great concept on its face. Okay. The project struggled a little bit. There were some major equity issues. You know, it's a problem when you're doing a heritage trail that is a tour through a historic black community and you don't have one black person hired to do the work. Right. Okay. We won't, don't take me down that road. We'll be here all night.
Hey, trust me. Trust me, I do this all the time.
But, Jerk, I say all that to say that the Heritage Trail project was in progress, and there was a portion of the project that required or necessitated that oral histories be collected from some of the residents to tell a specific part of the Heritage Trail.
Got it.
They were going to put up signs, you know, at different parts along Fifth Avenue and Pleasant Street, and they wanted the residents to give them the information to put on those signs. That's great, okay? The problem came in here. There was a gentleman from the University of Florida who came in and passed deeds of gifts to each one of the participants on that part of the Heritage Trail. That was problematic because he didn't need a deed of gift in the first place. He was already being contracted by the city to do the job.
Wow.
The deed of gift assigned him 100% of those individuals' intellectual property. Right. So here's the thing that for me makes it so egregious. When researchers come to us, Jerk, trust them, right?
Yeah.
We want to tell our story because we know it's beautiful. We're glad that they value it. We want to give it to you. Plus, it's like a badge of honor for some of us to say, my story's out there at the University of Florida. You know? It should be a badge of honor.
Dang.
But because it becomes problematic when someone comes in and unethically takes your stuff.
This happens a lot, man.
Now, the residents were unhappy and were not aware that he had taken their histories and produced a play. That's not what they were giving it for. Okay? So remember when I told you your history, your story is a commodity. Okay?
Wow.
All right. I assisted the residents in rescinding their deeds of gift. Okay? Because they were unhappy. And because, frankly, they had been used and mistreated.
Yeah.
Okay?
Happens.
It became problematic for me, Jerk, because I was working at the city when I did that.
I bet.
Okay.
Yeah. And now we're talking about institutions, you know, that we pay into, that we're looking for. You know what I mean? That's, you know, we have just as much right as anybody else to.
Come on.
And a lot of times, we have to oppose entire institutions as individuals.
Yes.
And that's been our fight for centuries at this point. Yeah.
And at that moment, I was standing alone. I was fortunate because I was in a position to have seen it and catch it and move to assist the people. But I think I've deviated a little bit because I'm a talker.
No.
And I want to bring it back full circle.
Yeah, be my guest.
My love, my passion for history and heritage and culture extends to understanding not just the need to tell the story, but the need to protect it.
Got it.
And that was a very recent and down-home example of how our story had been misused. And the need to fight. So I believe that the city has a responsibility to make sure when you create institutions that, first of all, you understand how to do it. And then secondly, obviously, you make sure the right people are around the table. But then third, that you make sure that the proper protections are in place.
Right. So
that the history and the story that is being told cannot be misused.
Right.
That cannot be misused or abused.
We have a storied history with, you know, just our culture just being exploited. I mean, that's, you know, one of those things. I just want to commend you for even fighting that fight. A lot of times, the people that represent us, when they're fighting those fights, a lot of times they feel alone because we don't even, you know, the average person don't even know about this stuff, you know?
Right.
So I just want to make sure you feel supported in that, man.
Thank you for that.
We're kind of coming to a close here. I definitely want to give you the floor to talk to any uncertain voters out there. So you take it away.
Well, listen, Jerk, first of all, I want to say thank you to you. I want to say thank you to my team and my family who has had my back from the beginning. And I want to say thank you to my supporters, anybody that has already supported me, that plans to support me. I'd like to also say thank you to the folks who think that they may want to go my way. I hope that you've gotten from this conversation a greater glimpse into who I am. I'm truly a daughter of this community. It means a lot to me. I have fought for it in ways that have really been unseen. I've worked in the city of Gainesville. I've seen the issues, and I have fought against those issues. It's been a pleasure to do that because I'm really about the justice.
Yes, ma'am.
That's truly what we need. For anybody who is uncertain about their decisions, what I would just urge you to do, the most important thing for you to do, is to get out on the 16th and vote. That's the biggest thing. regardless as to who you vote for. Obviously, I have a certain way I like for you to go, but at the end of the day, your vote is the most important thing. Too many lives have been lost for us not to do that. The other thing is, your vote actually does count. When you vote, make sure you are an informed voter. Don't pick the person that you like. Pick the person that has proven experience, fighting the fight, standing up for you against the odds in unfavorable circumstances. Pick the person who will represent you the best. I look forward to seeing you at the polls. I make myself accessible. I invite you to go to our Facebook page, go to our website. You can find me at Desmond for District 1 on Facebook. Same thing for our website, DesmondForDistrict1.com is the website. Reach out to us. We also have a campaign number that's listed on both the Facebook page and the website. Call us. We want to hear from you. If you have questions, ask me. That's what this is all about. Accessibility is the one thing that we've not had the most of, and we need to have more of that. So please know, I'm accessible. I'm available to you. Call me now.
I like
we'll
that.
get you the answers you're looking for.
I like that. That's cool, man. Desmond Duncan-Walker,
Yes.
To access further or to donate or just to learn more about it, you go to DESMON, the number 4, district, and then the number 1.com, right?
Right.
As well as Desmond for District 1 on Facebook and I'm sure any other.
And the website, yeah.
Cool.
Now, just so you know, I can no longer accept donations. My period to accept donations ended yesterday, unfortunately.
Well, forward the donations to Florida Hip Hop Radio. Now, let me stop joking. But no, I didn't know that. Sorry. But just anybody else that wants to support or just learn more about Miss Desmond, I would strongly suggest to peruse the website.
And I just come join the car caravan.
I'll be there. I've said it now, so I definitely can't not come. Thanks for everything that you've done. When I met you a few years back, I had no clue that you'd be running. And I still remember that experience, and my kids do too. You just being a genuinely nice person. So thank you for that. You know what I mean? Desmond Duncan-Walker, y'all. Make sure y'all get out and vote, man. Election day is on the 16th.
Yes.
You can vote by mail right now, but it's right there on Main Street, man. Just pull up and vote, man. Right now until the 13th, you can vote early. Yeah. Shout out to Kim Barton. I like to do that as much as possible.
Yes. Thanks, you, Kim.
Thanks again for coming in, Ms. Walker.
Thank you,
good luck next week.
Thank you so much.
All right. We're going to get right to it, y'all. We're going to right into some music. Got a whole lot of local music this hour. Y'all keep it locked right here, man.